This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. I'm out here in my backyard, and our story today is about the rock, and how the Israelites are out in the wilderness, and it says they start grumbling, right, against Moses, against God. And the word grumble, interestingly, is connected to the word lodge. I may have said this last week. We have him grumbling last week too. And the idea is that the word grumble sometimes is translated lodge, like grumbling is sort of this feeling of being stuck. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought it's kind of like cabin fever, right? And it's a feeling of being grumpy because you're stuck in a cabin, right? And it relates to the fact that you're stuck and that feeling you get. So I think we should translate it that way, from Hebrew into English, to cabin fever, that the Israelites were having cabin fever. And you might be thinking, well, that's weird. Why would you have cabin fever? They're out in the wilderness. They're going about their wanderings, their journey with Moses, and yet it does. It says they're out in the wilderness. They pitched their tents in a place where there was no water, and they became grumpy. They started to complain against God and Moses. Cabin fever. But the irony, of course, is that they are out in this big, wild world, lost, wandering, heading toward the promised land. How many of us right now, even with our open world, we're feeling cabin fever? We feel it when we wear our face masks. We feel it at our social distancing, that our world has become strange to us. And we're a lot like the Israelites. The world has become strange, and we start to feel like stone ourselves. Like there's no movement. The Israelites, in many ways, started to return and become like the bricks that they were building with the pyramids. They keep returning, having this inclination to return to being, like stone themselves. And so in our story today, Moses takes his staff, strikes the rock, and water comes out of it. And it says that the people drank and they were thirsty no more. In our psalm, it says they drank as if they were drinking from the deep, deep ocean. Yeah. So many times in our spiritual lives, I think, emotional lives, physical lives, we have a sense of becoming stagnant, becoming like a rock, not in a good way, that we become locked down. There's a funny joke right now. It's just so ridiculous, but Bob did it on me, where you say, let's see if I can do it. It says, say, what does the word TWA spell? So you go, twa. And then what does the word TWE spell? So you go, twa. And then what does the word TWO spell? He keeps asking me this over and over again. I'm like, twa, two, whatever. And then he writes it down on a piece of paper and he shows it to me, and it's the number 2, TWO, right? So I banged my head on that wall for about 15 minutes and couldn't get it. And he kept saying, sound it out, whatever. And it's funny to me how fast your brain just can lock down and say, I think I was getting mad about it. I was like, I don't get this joke. What are you doing? And then you discover that your brain's just not able to jump out. Of course, he set it all up, right? But your brain can't, your brain's becoming like a stone. But in the story, Moses takes the same staff that he used to part the sea so that the Israelites could escape Pharaoh's army. He uses that same staff out in the wilderness to help them recover a sense of freedom again. You were free back then and you're freed now. Our brains can get so stuck. I was working on this sermon, and Joan McKim came in to visit me in the church office. And for some reason, we got talking about 9/11, and she told me that on 9/11, when the real 9/11 that happened, she had her class, I think maybe fourth graders or fifth graders or something, and she's a retired teacher and very beloved in Monticello, and she was out with them on 9/11 with her class on a field trip, and they were tagging monarch butterflies, she said. And she knew what was going on in the bigger world, but she didn't tell them about it. She just let them go ahead and have this day, this school day of, tagging the butterflies. And then later, of course, they found out, and there was just a real sense of sadness and all that we went through as a nation. But then she said months later, she got a certificate from the place, I think it was Kansas City, where there's a database, and it said that their butterfly, one of the butterflies that they had put the tiny little sticker on, had flown 2,000 miles and had been found down in Mexico, that it had made its journey after it had been touched on that day that was so hard for us. And both of us imagined, with all the planes down from the sky and this little butterfly making its way 2,000 miles, that on that stream of air. And we both felt a great deal of inspiration just from thinking about that. 9/11 is also when my sister died years later. So that's not the easiest day for me either. It's very hard. This time of year just has some difficulties that are in it for all of us, I think. But to imagine that butterfly making its way, I think that's what this story is about. It's about how even as we feel ourselves locking down emotionally, mentally, physically, energetic, all the different ways we can be locked down, there remains this movement, this energy that is offered to us, this energy that is a constantly there. Bob and I are going to go hear a concert. I think it's going to be the first live music I've heard in 6 months. So we're going to take our chairs and distance from everybody in town. I've been hearing some marching bands. I looked outside and saw a marching band, our high school. They're marching around with their face masks on. It's really important for us to find ways to stay open to that energy that's there, that good energy. And Jesus, many years later, he called it living water. I hope you have a good week. I'm going to take a week break from this. I'm off from church. I'm just going to spend that time helping. We're going to have some painters here. Bob's been working a lot in the yard, doing a lot of work around the house. So I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will catch up with you. I think it's October 11th or somewhere around there. Yeah. So take care. Peace. Blessings on all of you.